Hey there. So I'm going to show you today an application of how to put on our magical dry nail polish. And I'm also going to give you guys some tips and tricks along the way. So if you're struggling to apply or if this is your first time, these are the best tips and tricks that I have for you to apply the nail strips smoothly and to make sure that you have a perfect application. So to get started, so I have already washed my hands. Typically before I start applying Color Street, I will go ahead and I will wash my hands with Dawn dish soap just to make sure, or dish soap, whatever, just to make sure that my hands do not have any oils. If you didn't know, your nails have lots of oils in them. So if you do not take those oils off first, it is likely that your nail polish will it can just peel right off. So you just want to make sure that you get all those oils off your nails. Plus we have a prep pad that I'm going to show you here in a second too. Okay, so the first thing that I typically do, like I said, I will wash my hands and then I will dig into our nail strips. So each nail strip comes with 16 double-ended strips. So you get 8 different sizes. I'm applying this really pretty red called Cherry on Top. So you get 8 different sizes, 16 total strips that are actually double-ended, and I'll explain that here in a minute. You're also going to get, it also kind of shows you how to apply a little bit about the product, and then you get your prep pad and you actually get a nail file with it as well. You can use that nail file that it comes with, or you can use another one in that you might really like. I usually will use either a glass nail file or my Color Street nail file, just depending. Some of the things that I keep in my little bag here, that is what I do my nails with every single time. I have nail clips for removals, which I talked about in a different video. I have my nail files. I have a little cuticle, my little nail cuticle thing. I do not cut my actual cuticles with this. I mainly just use this if like I have a hangnail or something like that, because you don't want to cut your cuticles, you want to push them back, which I'm going to do here in a second. And then I have my little nail scissors that I use for cutting the strips, which you will also see here in a minute. And then I usually have my cuticle oil that I usually keep in there, as well as my nail strengthener, which I'm going to put on for you in just a second so you can see how quickly it dries. If you have really thin, brittle nails, I'm going to push back my cuticles while I'm chatting with you. I also have a couple of these usually in my bag too. They're just rubber tipped cuticle pushers. But if you have really thin, brittle nails, you will want to make sure. So when I was first starting out with Color Street, I was a big nail biter. I used acrylics for a lot of my life, adult life, I should say. And my nails have just always been pretty thin, weak. This is probably the strongest that they have ever been. 3 years into Color Street, but I will go ahead and either double up my strips, which I will kind of show you how I do that. I will either double them up so that way there's an extra layer of protection on my nails so they're less likely to bend and break. If you have really bendy nails, you know what I'm talking about. Or I will go ahead and I will apply Color Street's nail strengthener. I have used other products in the past. Color Street is by far my favorite, not just because I sell it, but because it is the best. You can use it as a base coat, a top coat, a hardener for your nails, which is basically what I do. And then it just kind of also adds that extra layer of protection if your nails are really thin, bendy, tend to break often, or are just not in a healthy state right now. Okay, so I have my cuticles pushed back. And now I'm going to go ahead and go in with our nail strengthener. You don't need a lot. I'm just going to apply it just like you would apply nail polish. And it dries typically by the time I get to my other hand. This hand that I'm doing right now is already pretty much dried. So I do use this. You can also, if you want an extra shine on your nails, you can use it as a top coat. If you are using it as a top coat, I recommend doing it the next day. Color Street is 95% dry and 5% wet. So that 5% that's wet still needs to kind of cure to your nails. The 5% that's wet is what makes it stick to your nails because it's real nail polish. So you just want to give it time to cure to your nails before you apply a top coat or anything like that, just because I've noticed that it'll cause like an indent. Like if I bump it or something like that and I have a top coat on, I will get like an indent in the nail, and obviously we don't want that. Also too, if you are a first timer, if you've never tried Color Street before, I highly recommend going for the glitters first. They are just super duper easy to apply. And if you mess something up, they tend to really hide the imperfections in your nails. So, okay, so I finished that, and this hand is pretty much already dry. So it's a tiny bit wet, so we'll go ahead and open up our nail strips while they're finishing drying, but it dries so quick. That's why I love using this as a base coat. But yeah, this color is super pretty for, I feel like fall, winter, pretty much most of the holidays, like summer holidays, winter holidays, you know, this color is just gonna go with everything. I love it. Okay, so I'm gonna take it out, maybe gonna take it out. There we go. Okay, so we have, like I said, you have 16 total strips in 8 different sizes. I always recommend when you're sizing them up to your nails to, if you're like in between sizes, I usually size up, but if there's like not enough strips for me to size up, so say I need like this one as my biggest one, then you can also slightly stretch the strips to fit your nails. But you want to do it kind of before you put them on, and I'll show you that a little bit on this first one. But you've got the 16 double-ended strips. So I know the ones that I'm going to use, and I do try to do 2 layers. So I'm going to start this one. I typically use for my toes. I can usually get like 2 or 3 toenails out of like 1 strip right here. So I know that I use those for my toes. The second one in the pack right here, that is the one that I use for my pinkies. This one, I know I use it for my, my pointer finger. This one is used, the next one is going to be for my ring finger. And then this one, either one of these will fit my middle finger, but I usually just take this one, and I will also use this on my toes or just for extras. And then this one right here will be for my middle finger. And then this one over here, this second biggest one, is going to be for my thumb. And then I have these extras that I will use the biggest one for my toenails. If I wanted to do the same mani-pedi type thing. But if I'm not using them to do like a mani-pedi, I will go ahead and I will put this just back into the package. And I will go ahead and tape the top. So I'll go ahead, I will tape the top. And then what I do to kind of keep these. So Color Street, like I said, it's a one-time use product technically, but we don't always like to waste our strips, right? If we can use these again or use them, so you can get double ends. So you'll see that, like, unless I'm doubling up, I probably won't need both of these for my pointer finger. So you can save the other one unless you want to double up your strips, which I'm going to double them up. So I'm going to use both of them, but you could get a whole another manicure. Usually, like if I'm really stretching this, I can do 2 manicures and 1 pedicure from 1 pack of nail strips. So again, how I save them is I will just put them back in here. I usually just tape the top. Some people will flat iron it, whatever your heart desires. And then I will go ahead and I will put this, I have a large Ziploc bag in my refrigerator. I will put this into my refrigerator, and then when I go to use them again, I will just take it out of the refrigerator. I know it sounds really weird, but I will put it between my thighs to kind of warm it up and get it back to room temperature, or a little bit more than room temperature. I've noticed that is the best kind of spot for it to really go onto your nails like it did the first time. And I've used some of them up to a year later, and they have worked just fine. So it just depends on how you keep them. Before I even knew really how to keep them in the beginning, my first year of Color Street, I just kind of taped the top and I put them in like this little drawer that I had, and sometimes they would last, sometimes they wouldn't. But I've noticed that pretty much every single time I put them in like this in a Ziploc bag in my fridge and take them out to use them, I get them slightly warm between my thighs. Usually like I'll be taking off my nail polish, my old set that I had on, I'll have it between my thighs, and by the time I'm done taking off my nail polish, they're ready to go and ready to be put on. So just a little insider tip for you. Okay, so now I'm going to start. I always start with my pinky. I start with my pinky and I work my way to my thumbs. These are dry, by the way. I love our nail strengthener, but I start with my pinky, work my way to my thumbs, and sorry, my dog's snoring. And then once because I use my thumbs as tools, which you'll see here in a second. So I use my thumbs pretty much as tools. I'm gonna get my nail file out and ready. So you will see this. So there is a clear protectant on the top of this. It's going to be this little purple tab. So you're going to take that clear protectant off. So I took that off. Then you have the actual nail strip. So as you can see, it is dry to the touch. Then you're going to peel it off this white backing. So you're going to peel it off the white backing. I have the backing right there. Now you can use the backing as like an anchor for your nail strip to kind of hold it so you're not over touching it, because like I said, your nails have lots and lots of oils in them, so you want to make sure that they're nice and clean, which I almost forgot the prep pad stage. So I'm actually going to leave it on there for a second, put it upside down, and do my prep pad really quickly before I put that on because we almost forgot that. So it comes with your little prep pad. Even though I had the nail strengthener on, I'm going to do the nail strengthener first, and then I'm going to apply the prep pad just to make sure that there's no oils. I find that sometimes if I don't do this and I have the nail strengthener on, my nails are more likely to start to peel and stuff like that when I have the nail strengthener as a base and I don't use this prep pad. So I am going to get that on there. And then I usually will rub it onto my fingers too, just again to make sure there's no leftover oils on my fingers or anything like that. So again, you can use this as an anchor. Most of the time I don't. But if you tend to have really oily fingers or nails, it's a good idea to do it. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to face the camera a little bit down, is I am going to just line this up with my cuticle. So I kind of start at the top and push it back. Now, if you don't have the right placement, you can lift up, but once you start pressing down, you cannot lift up anymore. So the goal is to not get it on your cuticle, to kind of go in the center there. So I have that on there. If it's a little crooked, most of the time it's fine unless you're wearing a design. That's why I always recommend starting off with glitters until you kind of get the hang of it. So I'm going to go ahead and press down now because I like that placement. So I'm pressing down and up. I kind of usually start in the center and then work my way to the edges. I make sure that I really press down. I want to make sure that it is on there and it's not going anywhere. The other thing that I do is I press backwards too, like this, to make sure that it did not get on my cuticle. This way too, if it got on my cuticle and I see, oh crap, it's on my cuticle a little bit and I can't push my cuticle back enough to get it off, and then what I typically do is I will wait until I finish all of my other nails, and then I go in with this little cuticle pusher and I basically push my cuticle back. I basically push it back really gently using my cuticle pusher, and then I can usually peel it off of my cuticle if I get any on there. So just a little tip for you. Now, these are double-sided, so I'm going to show you. I usually use scissors just to make it easier for myself. I will cut off the tip there. Oh no, I dropped it. Whew, okay. My chair's rolling back on me now too. Hopefully it didn't get anything on it. It looks good. Okay. Emergency. So I will usually Normally it doesn't fall like that. Normally it just sticks onto the scissors. So I'm just gonna fold that down for now, and then we're going to, you can usually either like perforate it with your thumbnail and kind of press it off there, or use your scissors like I did. So then you'll see that I have this part left. So you're going to take this, you're gonna detach this from there, and you can see that you have a whole nother side now. So if you have shorter nails, you're definitely going to be able to get double sides out of them. So I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna butt it up to my cuticle, lay it down, press it on there really well. Now, if you needed to stretch, like sometimes I'll see, like if it was short on this side, I would take it and just slightly, not hard, like super gently, stretch it just slightly, but I really didn't need to do that. Now you can see it's on my cuticle, but I'll show you how I get that off. Okay, so I have that on there. It's slightly on my cuticle, so if it's a little bit big and it's on your cuticle, this is where I use my thumbs as my tools, or you can even use your cuticle pusher as your tools as well. So then I just kind of take it and perforate, just press my thumbnail in there, perforate it, and then I'll go ahead and separate it from the side. And then you can usually wait. Some people will wait to go ahead and file until the very end, so they'll just kind of fold the ends over. If I'm doing 2 layers, I make sure that I get both layers on all nails, because again, I use my thumbs as tools, and then I will do my thumbs very, very last. So I'll put my 2 layers on, which you don't have to wait for it to dry. It's dry to the touch, so I can go in with my second layer right now, and put that on. Or I can go ahead and file them. So I'm just going to show you. So to file them, you're not filing to actually file your nail. You're just filing to get that excess off. So I take, like, this is the lower grit side. Usually if you get a nail file, you kind of had one side that's super gritty and one side that's not as. So I take the not as gritty side. And as you can see, I'm just like lightly, I'm just perforating it. So I'm not really filing to file my nails. You want to make sure that you file and shape your nails before you put your nail strips on. And then I will go ahead and get off any of the little excess pieces around, if there is any, and there you have it. So then on this side, I'm going to do the same. And there we have it. So super simple. Again, the glitters, they're just going to hide any like imperfections that you may have in your nails. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do one more nail for you. So that way you guys can see it again. And then we will go ahead, I will go ahead and hop off here. So that way you don't have to listen, you don't have to watch me do every single one of them. But again, you have that clear plastic part that you're just going to take off. Then you have your actual nail strip. And then you are going to line it up. So you can actually take this off right now if you wanted to. I usually just leave it on while I'm applying. And then you're going to line it up with that cuticle, just like that. And again, I know I make this look super easy. If you're struggling your first time, just know that the more that you do it, you're going to get better. The first time that I did it, I was by no means a pro at all. So don't think that, you know, you're doing something wrong or anything like that. It just sometimes can take a minute to get the hang of it. Okay, so I'm gonna put that one on, really press down. I'm gonna cut it over here in case it falls again, which usually never happens. And then we're gonna fold this down under the nail, just to make sure nothing gets under there. And then we're gonna take off this part, and I have like my little trash pile over here. I usually take, so when I wash my hands, I usually just take the paper towel from washing my hands, I set it down, and then I just make a little trash pile, and then at the end I can just throw it all away. Okay, so the next nail, again, I'm gonna do this side, making sure my cuticle is pushed back all the way. So I have it just like this. And then again, if you are not using double sides, so I have, this was my pinky, this was my regular, my ring finger. Again, I'm gonna do double layers because I have thinner nails and I like to double up. But if you do not need to double up, you can save these and use them a whole other time. I like to give you guys the options to get the best bang for your buck. Again, Color Street does not guarantee the strips the second time around, but if you store them properly, you should not have very many issues with it at all. But okay, so now we're gonna just file off one more time. Again, you're not filing to file, you are just getting that little excess part off. And as you can see, I kind of do this at an angle because I don't want to like file the tip off. I'm doing it as like at an angle, so that way I make sure that you can't tell that I, you know, you don't want to file like that tip off because then you'll be able to see the tip of your nail. But the other thing too is if you have a really, so this is kind of a chunky glitter, but it doesn't feel chunky. There's some glitters that are really chunky and they have like big chunks of glitter in them. Sometimes with those, I do recommend either using something like this or even nail scissors to kind of cut as close as you can to the nail tip. Because sometimes if you are trying to, say you get a piece of that chunky glitter right on the edge there, it gets a little bit difficult. And if you're filing sometimes to get the excess off the end, you might rip that chunk of glitter out. So I always recommend if you have a really chunky glitter and you have like one speck of glitter that's right on the end of your nail to either cut it off rather than trying to file it off sometimes because it'll just get a little tricky. But how pretty is that? I'm really excited about this color. But if you guys have any questions at all about application or anything like that, just remember if you're adding on a top coat, do it the next day. It's just easier. And then you can keep applying that top coat throughout the week. So I usually try to apply my top coat like every 3 to 4 days just because it's not like our Color Street strips. You can keep reapplying it after a few days because it is going to wear off. As to where the strips will usually last me anywhere from 14 days or more. Especially when I double them up, guys. When I have doubled them up, if you're, say you're going on like a vacation, your hands are going to be in water a lot or something like that, I always double up my strips or do one layer and then do a fun design or an overlay on top of it or something like that, because my strips will last me like 3 weeks if I double them up. Like they will last me forever. And I have 2 kids, so we're doing baths all the time. We're doing dishes all the time. We have a pool. Like my hands are in water all the time. That is why they tend to be bendy and can break easily. And if I'm doing at least 2 layers on my nails, it just makes it so easy. I know that they're not going to break. I don't have to worry about them and we're usually good. So yeah. If you guys have questions though, just let me know. And if you want to try a sample, you can go to shannonsdiybeauty.com and request a sample there or drop it in the comments and we will get that out to you. Okay, we'll talk soon.